Legend of Robin Hood. Once upon a time there stood a gargantuan oak tree with fresh, healthy and crisp emerald green leaves. Towering over the whole forest, the great oak tree's roots spread over the whole woodland like snakes that would not budge. Beside the tree, grass emerged from the brown soil. In a variety of colours, flowers also sprouted from the ground. Mysteriously, a man dressed in green, who was perched on the tree, held a bow and arrow in his hands. With a drought in the air, it was winter, and the villagers shivered when they stepped outside. Stepping out of the shadows, the figure threw off his cloak, revealing a tuft of frizzy ginger hair and a freckled face. He was called Robin Hood. Daily, Robin wore a lime green hat with a crimson feather sticking out of it, probably hoping to cover his scruffy hair. Sadly, Robin, who was cunning and mischievous, had been banished from the kingdom, for he was an outlaw. Forced to live in the forest, Robin and his merry men made a dwelling in and on the great oak tree. Whilst being a home, the great oak tree was also the guardian of the whole forest. Secretly, his heart ached for the love of the majestic Maid Marian. "Oh, Maid Marian, if only I could see you," Robin would whisper at night, gazing at the twinkling stars. Suddenly and without warning, disaster struck. Bravely, King Richard had gone to war, leaving Prince John and the sheriff in charge. This was a huge mistake. The sheriff, who was as big as an elephant, had a heart made of stone. Unfortunately, Prince John wasn't any help, and he was just as bad as the sheriff. Inhumanely, both of them were full of pride and prejudice, followed by a huge amount of greed. Making people poor, the taxes were increased and some people grew homeless. Once the town was as happy as a lark, but now the bluebells drooped, the grass was no longer green, and the birds never sang anymore. Mist and smog now permanently nested on the land, making people squint to see. Sighing and hanging his head, Robin decided it was up to him to help the miserable people. Feeling particularly livid one day, Robin planned a plot to steal some money and give it to the villagers. Mischievously, Robin's plan was to send a fake message to the sheriff and Prince John to say that the King of Norway was passing by and that he would like to meet them. After they leave the castle, Robin would sneak in and steal the money. Letting Little John write the fake message, Robin grabbed a hazel-coloured sack and sprinted towards the castle. Being too optimistic, he crept in before the message did. He was caught. Hearing about Robin being imprisoned, Maid Marian's eyes filled to the brim with tears, and she let out a surprise hiccup. Overwhelmed with surprise, Maid Marian decided that the sheriff and Prince John had to be punished. Seizing a quill and parchment, she sat down at her dressing table to write to her cousin King Richard. Scribble. Tears still dripping from her rosy cheeks, Maid Marian wrote, "To my dearest cousin, please come back." Galloping on his horse Epona, the stout King Richard was coming back. Finding the state of his kingdom, he immediately let Robin out of jail, greeted by the relieved Maid Marian, who flung her arms around him. Trying to hide, the sheriff and Prince John were found by King Richard, who thankfully banished them from the land. With people jumping for joy, taxes were decreased, homes were repaired, and a generous amount of food was provided. Even though he was an outlaw, King Richard allowed Maid Marian to marry Robin. Happily, they arranged a wedding and they became husband and wife. This legend has been passed down from generation to generation. Without a doubt, the moral of the story is to always help others in need.